Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to of the Aurora Block community speaking to and introducing you to our candidates for this election. We welcome your questions, and it's always a healthy, clean conversation. It is hard enough to be in election, and it is harder when we don't know who our candidates are. And so, as a part of our responsibility, is we put out a call and we are introducing to you everyone who took up our request to have a conversation today. So, Ms. Daniela, do you want to do that little land acknowledgement for us, please?
Absolutely happy to, and happy to be here as well. But before we get started, we're all coming, to this call from different areas. But I certainly want to acknowledge, the Indigenous lands that we're on, and recognize that before we jump into our conversation this evening.
Amazing. Thank you so much for doing that. As you can see, we have Princess Layla, who is an entrepreneur. She has her puppets. What's the name of your business, Layla?
Active Minds Play Tools.
There you go. And I have my own little gem here, Jaden. And we believe that the children are the future and we need to get them involved in what we do as much as possible. So, Ms. Daniela, they will be asking you some questions. But before we do that, I'm just going to tell us, introduce yourself to the community, tell us who you are and what we can expect from you.
Thank you, Fiona. So I'm so glad to be here. I really appreciate the Aurora Black Community Association inviting me, Fiona, yourself for inviting me, and Shaheen and Layla and Jaden. So great to see you all, and for everyone tuning in. I really appreciate you just taking the time to get to know me. Getting into that, I am the Liberal candidate for York Simcoe. We're on the campaign trail right now, but it's really important that we have these opportunities to, introduce ourselves and, just share as candidates why we're running, and a little bit about our background. And so, for me, I come from a background of, working in the community, working to serve the community. I've worked in both the public and nonprofit sectors to really make a difference in the lives of others. And, when I think back to my family and growing up and, what really motivated me to, get into politics and even into the career that I have, working in community, it really stems from, my grandparents, my parents, my family members, and the values that they instilled in me from, being hardworking. My grandparents immigrated to Canada from Jamaica, and, serving the community, giving back, and most importantly, really standing up for those who need it most. And those are values that, are really ingrained in me and that carry me to this day. And so, jumping back to a little bit about my career and the work that I've done, I started my career working at the municipal level in government. I worked as a caseworker in social services for the Ontario Works program, before doing some more community engagement work, and working, in partnership with community leaders, grassroots groups, businesses, government partners to help settle immigrants and refugees into the community, and really making sure that, opportunities were there. And then most recently, I've worked, in the nonprofit sector as well, supporting nonprofit and social purpose organizations. So I worked with the Ontario Trillium Foundation, and I worked as a consultant for an organization called Lift Philanthropy Partners, where, we're really just supporting nonprofit organizations in the social impact sector to have a greater impact, in the communities that they serve. So that's a little bit about me. And in terms of why I'm running, I really want to continue to serve community, make sure that we have effective leadership, and that, the voices, our voices are heard. And so that's really important. I want to also inspire our young men and young women. So I'm also just so grateful to have Jaden and Layla on this call. We had some time to chat a little before, and you're both amazing. So, it's that's part of the reason too why I'm running as well. So I'll pause there because I know we have a very exciting conversation ahead, but that's a quick introduction.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Again, for the Aurora Block community, I feel that I speak for the entire board when I say, while we have our own personal, from a family decision of how we vote and what matters to us. From an organization standpoint, we are speaking to all parties because it's everyone's responsibility to make our community work. It's not one party's responsibility. So when we invite parties here, or we put the call out, actually, it's for everybody. We want to get to know your faces, your background, your heart, who you are as a person. So Layla, do you want to have get your questions off to Miss Danella, please?
Yes, okay. How will you make life normal during the pandemic and after the pandemic?
Right. Layla, thank you for that question. That's such an important question, especially, right now. And so, for me personally, it's really important that we continue to work together to keep our community safe and healthy. Really, continuing to make sure that individuals are safe, and our Liberal government has done a great job in terms of providing vaccines that are safe, that are free, and accessible to everybody. So that's really important. And in terms of just communicating with community members, making sure that we're having conversations so we can hear, how are you feeling? How are you doing? Because there's so many issues that are affecting us all. So it's really important. Another area that's of extreme importance is mental health and our overall well-being. For you, Layla, as a young person, for our families, our parents, there's been a lot that's gone on over the past 19 months of the pandemic. So our mental health and well-being is also so important. And some of the work that I've done and that I bring forward with me is really advocating, for mental health and making sure that, supports are available. An example, our Liberal governments will be, bringing forward, a 3-digit simple, national line that can be accessed at any time of day, so that, individuals that might need support, that might need someone to talk to or some information can have that access. So for me, it's really important that we have those supports available in our community, and that they're accessible for everybody.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Layla.
You're welcome.
You rock, Layla. Jaden, do you want to ask your question to Miss Danella?
Okay, so first, bonjour and good evening. My question for you is, how are you gonna give the indigenous children clean drinking water and good education?
Jane, this is a really great question, and very a very important question, and I'm really glad that you brought this forward. So, Indigenous reconciliation, ensuring that Indigenous peoples have access to clean water is so important, right? In my riding of York Simcoe, we have the Chippewas of Georgina First Nation Islands. So, for me and for the Liberal Party, that is something that is certainly, this is something that we're going to address in terms of, working collaboratively, listening, and really making sure that we're addressing, the boil water advisories, and making sure that everybody has access to clean drinking water. And so, we've made progress to this point, but there's always more work to do, and we can't wait. And so this is very important. And, for myself, I want to continue to have those conversations and that dialogue to make sure that, this issue is not something that gets left behind, because it is so important that we address it now. And in Indigenous reconciliation, making our way through the recommendations, that's something that we also need to focus on as well. So I really appreciate this question. And it's something that we need to continue not just speaking about, but acting on.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I like that you say not just speaking about, because there's a thin line between tokenism and action and real meaningful actions.
Right.
So it's we were just reading up, and I think when we read up some things that came up, and he's like, okay, well, we should ask this question
Mhm.
because it's sad that we're in a country where you think that it's a wealthy, rich country, but some are still lacking the basic necessities. So, Shaheen, what question? We have some questions. Let's acknowledge. If I'm looking down, is because I'm looking at the computer here, where the questions are coming in. We want to thank everybody again for watching. If you're sharing, if you're on a shareable screen, feel free to share that because again, this is a Black candidate, and I'm sorry, but I'm very proud of this moment because we don't find this. It's easy to talk. It's another thing to step up. And for me, a win is a win, and it's already a win to have Black people stepping up and say, I want to put my neck on the line to advocate for people, to advocate for equality and diversity, and to have great representation. So enough respect to you, Daniela, for doing this. So yeah, I'm super pumped to have you. And so thank you for coming in. Did someone say, I'm curious to know what your parents wanted you to do in your life? Are you, I don't know if you wanted to answer this one or follow up, but I'm assuming the person is saying, because sometimes growing up, parents have their own ambition for you. You should be a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher. If you have any clarity, viewer, on that question, feel free to put it on. But I'm assuming that's what you're saying. So do you want to answer that today?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to. So I'm very grateful. I've come from a very close family and a very supportive, encouraging family. And so, for my for my parents and everyone, it was always about, coming as immigrants to Canada and working hard, just always wanting to make sure that, that, I worked to, that they gave me that support. So I can't really say that they steered me in one direction or the other, or said, I want you to be, a, B, or C. It was always, this is the opportunity that's available. Really a lot of emphasis on, education, but also doing what I'm passionate about, what makes me happy. And so again, really grateful for that support, and that encouragement, because I certainly wouldn't be here, as I mentioned earlier, the values of my parents and my grandparents that they instilled in me, the examples that they've set. One example that I'll draw on is serving the community, volunteering and really giving back. So seeing, my family really emphasize that, talk about that. We would go out together, and volunteer in the community. So, growing up and having that kind of environment really showed me, that importance of continuing that work. And I certainly wouldn't be here, or I wouldn't have had, made the choices in my career that I did if it wasn't for that example and that encouragement that was set. So, when we talk about politics, getting into politics isn't something that, I just decided overnight. It was, looking at the opportunities that we have in place to continue to do more and to continue to serve communities. And through my career, I've seen, the effect of policy on individuals. I've listened and had conversations, with community members. And so, it was important for me now to say, how can I do more? And so, that certainly, stems from my family. So I don't know if I answered that question directly in terms of, what did they want me to do? And I think that's because the answer is they wanted me to do what I, was passionate about and where I can really make a difference. So they're supportive, they're happy, and they want me to continue to, do that work in the community as best I can.
Great. So the person says, yes, that's exactly what I meant. And I know they must be proud of you. That's awesome. So again, if you're just tuning in, what we're really doing is giving a platform that is safe for all candidates of all parties to reach out to us and be a part of this conversation, to tell our community who they are. Shaheen, did you have a question for our candidate, Daniela?
So my question is that right now, like being families that came from like immigrant families. My parents came from Tanzania in 1970. What I find a lot of times is that we're small businesses. We're still like working at the upper lower class, to get to that upper level. What incentives are you going to put in place so that new immigrant families have support to understand the grants that are available, because sometimes, you know, as new immigrant families, we don't even know the programs that are available in Canada to help us. That was something that, like, it often happens where a family comes to Canada and there's all these wonderful programs that are available, but new immigrant families don't know about them.
Right, right. So again, another, really good question, and thank you for this. So, when we speak about, settlements and successful integration of immigrants, new Canadians into the community, refugees, I always draw on the experience that I had, because I spent many years working, to support the settlement sector. And so again, hearing, similar sentiments to what you've just expressed, Shaheen, and having so many other conversations, I do have a different lens and appreciation really for that experience. And as I said, my own family, being new to Canada at one point. So in terms of the support that's available, I think broadly speaking, when we're talking about things such as affordability, whether it's housing, being able to move from being a renter into housing, being able to have meaningful employment, meaningful job opportunities, access to healthcare. These are all such important things, and these are things that within the Liberal platform is certainly outlined. And when it comes to equality and supporting our diverse communities, this is also another area of extreme importance, and something that is extremely important to me as well. So, there's those pieces, those bigger, policy pieces that are within the platform, but it's also important for, our local, MPs, member of parliament, to have an understanding as well, to be able to kind of champion and be those voices for, the individuals and the experience that might not be heard, and making sure that we're bringing that to Ottawa, and making sure that we're able to get those supports out to the community members who need it most. So I think that's a fantastic question. And again, it's so important that we're able to do this, and do this collaboratively. And it takes all levels of government. It takes working with community. It takes listening to individuals who are most affected, and making sure that we're taking that feedback and making sure that our programs and policies are reflecting the lived realities on the ground.
Thank you so much for that. How can we, because I believe that we need character. It's always character over color. But we know that diversity is definitely lacking.
Mm-hmm.
We know that representative, whatever representation is lacking and missing. We need more of it. And to Shaheen's question, I feel that, Shaheen, that's a part of the work that us in the Oro Black community have to be doing, collaborating with leaders, find out, have your point of contact. Can't do that. Share those information as they become available to our community. Have that person that we're working with in different parties that are saying, hey, you're feeding the information and we passing it back to our community, because it's really hard. So my question for you is, how can we support you? And despite what party we are, because again, it doesn't matter. As a Black woman, as a woman, I believe you're also pregnant. I
am.
How many months are you?
I'm 8 months, so I'm almost there.
Wow. So you're delivering something at some point, maybe 2 deliveries, one.
Yes. So I mean, and that's another thing too, right? And hopefully, I mean, we can touch on that a little bit, but we talk about the future of our young people, and certainly as an expectant mother, I mean, first time mother. So, these are issues that are so important, and that's why I said too, also, I'm so glad that, Jaden and Layla are engaged, in this conversation, and, bringing forward such important questions. But I know we hopefully will have some time to touch on that, because I know, Fiona, you were asking another question that is also.
Go right ahead and touch on that. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, so when we talk about affordability, that's something that's on the forefront of my mind. when at the doors, when I'm on the phones, I mean, this is an issue that's certainly coming up. You know, the issue of affordability. We're talking, you know, I'm talking to parents and seniors who, you know, are concerned for, you know, their children, and, you know, how are they going to be able to get homes? And while, you know, these parents are also thinking about retirement, and, you know, I had a gentleman, just the other day say, you know, I want to be able to help my son, but I'm thinking about, you know, retirement, and I don't have it. So how is my son going to be able to, you know, have a future? You know, he's just finishing university. And so there's so many, you know, different things that, you know, we're having to really think about and consider. And these are challenging things. So when I think again of, you know, what, you know, as the Liberal Party we're bringing forward, it's, you know, addressing these issues with, you know, housing affordability, making sure that we're protecting, you know, our rights, supporting, you know, young individuals who are looking to get into the housing market, and making sure that we're building affordable housing. And so, you know, those are really important pieces. And then on the other side, you know, as I said, just being an expectant mom, thinking about childcare and meeting so many parents, single parents, families who, you know, $10 a day childcare would be just significant. And you know, yes, there are other parties talking about, you know, affordability of childcare, but the one thing that really is a differentiating factor is the fact that as a Liberal Party, we're talking not just about making childcare more affordable, but we're looking at making childcare more accessible. We're looking at making childcare, you know, better quality childcare. So looking at, you know, increasing the wages for early childhood educators, because we know that will also lead to better quality childcare. So there's so much, you know, to it. And so for me, this is, you know, top of mind. And when I'm having conversations with families, I know this is as well. So affordability, especially coming out of the pandemic, is a huge issue that I think, you know, we really do need to examine the party platforms and make sure that we're making an informed decision. And as I said, the Liberal Party is offering and advocating and continuing to respond to the needs of community when it comes to this issue.
Mhm.
I'm glad to hear that you're talking about accessibility to childcare as well, along with raising the wage of early childhood educators, because one thing that we never saw in Aurora,
Mhm.
and I know Fiona ran a childcare for almost 17 years, Fiona?
13.
13 years.
Mhm.
And, you know, we're now getting applications while mothers are pregnant.
Right.
And to me, like, okay, it's wonderful that these moms are organized, but they shouldn't feel the fear
Mhm.
that if they don't start looking for childcare by like moment one,
Mhm.
they're not going to get a spot, or they won't be able to go back to work. That's concerning to me.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know, we shouldn't have wait lists like we have. Like,
Yeah.
I personally have a wait list of 40 children right now,
Wow. Yeah.
and I'm a small center.
Right. Yeah, I completely get where you're coming from. I mean, I printed out lists of, you know, childcare that's available, right? And you know, that was months ago. So and that's the experience of so many. I feel like we could do an entire segment on childcare alone and talk about, you know, the effect on parents, on families, on women. There's so much, right?
That's right.
So stressful because, you know, even the mom coming in pregnant
Mhm.
for the virtual interview, like we do them through Zoom right now, I just, you know, the stress on their face that they've got to make a decision
Yeah.
like that to take a spot.
Mhm.
Sometimes it may not be the even the best fit for them, but they're just taking it because they don't want to lose a
Mhm.
spot or not be able to go back to work.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's we can't afford not to do something about this now.
So I'll leave it to you, Daniela. What would, if somebody just watching this live and say, who is this person? What is she about? What did we know? And you have this last 2 minutes to let the person know who you are and what you're about, and especially your commitment to the Black community, to the entire Canada, right? Because it's about all Canadian, period.
Right.
What would you like them to know, or what would you like us to know?
Yeah, I would say at my core, I'm someone that's here to elevate, voices and concerns and aspirations of our community. So, the local community within York Simcoe, the Black community, diverse communities, for young people, for women and families, that's what I'm here to do. I want to bring diverse thought and really make meaningful contributions. And something that's really important to me is that we have a collaborative approach and that we work together because, I can't do it alone. I won't have all the answers. And it's really important to, take that time to listen and to work together. And, from my past experiences, I would share that, I'm someone who, has shown that, I can serve as a connector and really, build those bridges. I value partnerships and really am just committed to listening to everyone and encouraging dialogue because that's so important. And so, if there's one thing you take away from this, it's that I'm here, I'm here to serve and, continue to work, hard to really advocate for the issues that matter most. And when it comes to the Black community, Fiona, you asked that earlier, and we didn't get a chance to really touch on that too much. But, as a young Black woman running for the first time, it's really important to acknowledge, the need to have representation, but not just representation, because that's just a start. There's so much more in terms of adding our voices to decision-making tables, and that's so important. And I do want to highlight that, the Liberal Party, has been focused on really listening to the community needs and working to bring in programs and policies that will really help us. And there's been, a lot of focus on Black mental health. And as I said, I've had so many conversations around, Black mental health in particular, especially coming out of the pandemic, because we know that the Black community, diverse communities have been hit differently, have been hit extremely hard during the pandemic. Another area that, our party's been focused on is certainly providing sustainable, so not just providing funding, but providing sustainable funding for Black-led and Black-serving organizations in the nonprofit sector. And then also, investing, continuing to invest in the community in small businesses and young people and students, and really making sure that, we're there for our community. So, the last thing I'll say, on that bit is, this election, we have as a party, as a Liberal Party, a slate of 20 Black candidates. That's quite significant. The fact that we have, that many candidates running across the country, it's the most the Liberal Party has ever had. And I believe it's the most of any party, but let's double check that. But it's definitely the most that the Liberal Party, has ran. So, to be among that group, to have the support of the community, means so much, because it isn't easy. But we need to continue to work together. And I always think, if we had more representation, more diverse representation, more women, more Black MPs in Ottawa, just imagine, what more we can do. And so I would love to, leave that with anyone tuning in or who watches this later. And in terms of support, we can always use, as much support as we can get, whether that's on the ground, support making phone calls. Of course, there's the financial aspect as well in terms of, donations, but it really helps us to get the message out, to make sure that we're present and that we do have the best chance of getting in and being able to represent your voices in Ottawa. And that's really important. We need to have the right people. We need to have effective leadership, at the decision-making tables. So I'll leave it there, but thank you so much for those questions.
You did say one thing while we're talking off-site that I want to share again. Mm-hmm. And that was you saying, no matter how this turns out, what did you say?
Yeah, so I said, no matter how this turns out come September 20th, I want to continue to work together. I want to, hear from, our community members. I want to hear from the Black community. I want to hear from everybody. And so we can continue to work to address the issues that are affecting our community and that, really do matter. And we can only do that if we continue to work together. And, I encourage, we need to look at, and I think Fiona, you said this earlier, all candidates, especially our diverse candidates, and really support, each other, because, taking that step, it's a lot. And I think, at the core, we all want to, continue to serve community and do the best that we can. So for me, it's just really important that we continue this work. This is just the beginning, but we need to work together. So I'm always open. Please, reach out. My website's danielajohnson.ca. And, it's really important that, we have these conversations and continue to work together, because, we can't do it alone, and we can't wait. There's an urgency, there's a sense of now, and I want to make sure that at the end of the day, that I continue to be involved in that work, because it is important.
So again, was that danielajohnson.ca? Is that correct?
Yes, that is.
Okay, so I'm just going to put that up so everybody can see it and know how to reach you. But I thank you so much. And we don't have any other power, and our responsibility is to do the little that we can do. And I know that I was super pumped to find about you, because I went Googling and this list just popped up, and I'm like, look at Black people.
I actually was very pumped because she was also a female.
I know.
All right. We need
I love it.
women in politics.
I love it. Well, I'm so glad you reached out, and I'm grateful for the opportunity, right? And to have these conversations, and I hope I can come back and we can have some more conversations.
Yes,
listen, there's so much for us to do, right? So
yes,
absolutely.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much again. Thank you, Shaheen. Thank you, guys. If you're just coming on and you just replay and get in touch with Daniela, she's in Bradford, York, Simcoe. Where does that cover?
So we're looking at Bradford, West Gwillimbury, East Gwillimbury, York, Georgina, just across Lake Simcoe. So it's a very big riding, and we're out there. We're not just in one community. We're all over, and even in these last 4 days, you'll see me out there. So it's me online and out there, but certainly knocking on doors.
Amazing. Well, wish you all the blessing and all the luck. And yes, we will have a lot more ongoing discussions. So thank you so much again for taking your time and having this conversation with us and letting the community get to know you. That's all we have for you guys today. So thank you, and reach out to Daniela. We will follow through with your comments. If we're missing anybody, I'm sure we'll follow up and make sure they get answered. So thank you so much again. It's a pleasure having you, Daniela.
Thank you so much. And thanks everyone for tuning in.
Thank you. Bye for now.